obviously the first thing you have to talk about when you talk about the Ravens is Lamar Jackson. And, we beat the Ravens last year. So a valid question in terms of, trying to scope out how to beat Lamar Jackson this year is, how did we do against Lamar Jackson last year? How did we stop Lamar Jackson last year? We didn't at all. 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, 119 rushing yards, a touchdown. That touchdown being on a 79-yard rushing touchdown. So if you take away that touchdown, he only had 40 yards. But you're saying if you only took away an 80-yard rushing touchdown, that's a big deal. He can bust that out at any point. Almost 450 all-purpose yards, 4 total touchdowns. What was one of the games of the year last year. So you look at what we did last year, and you kind of just throw that out. You can't really gain any knowledge from that game because he just utterly destroyed us. But what you can do is kind of look back to some of the games this year in which they've lost, or at the very least struggled. And most notably, they've lost against teams within their own division. 2 of their losses are against the Browns and the Steelers. They had a weird loss early on in the season against the Colts, but early on in the season, there's always a weird game where a team isn't quite up to speed and they end up dropping.
I think that was a Gardner Minshew game too.
It was. Yeah, that was his first game starting, I think. But
yeah, I think that was a concussion game. Yeah.
Something that I think we can feed on is the fact that the 2 of the teams that beat him, the 2 games that you kind of want to look at, the Steelers and the Browns. What do they have in common? They play in the same division. They play them twice a year. What have the Dolphins done the last 4 years? We've played the Ravens single game, every single year for the last 4 years. We won last year, won 2 years in a row, at least 2 years in a row. I'm not sure about that third year.
Yeah.
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Did we win that one?
But we've had recent success in 2 very different games. 2 years ago, it was Thursday Night Football. It was an absolutely dud of a game. We had Jacoby Brissett starting, but Tua backed him up. Tua came into the game. One helped us win the game. It was slow. It was weird. It was awkward, but we ended up winning. And then last year, obviously, one of the games of the year. The key that I've seen...
we did not play them in 2020 because that was our tank year. Or the year prior was our tank year, so we didn't match up. We played them in 2019 for the season opener.
And
that was
demolished.
We already had some Ravens fans commenting on a couple of our videos saying that they hope it's like 2019 again. And I think they're just forgetting something that was our tank year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure they do hope it was like that. It's just not the reality of the situation. Yeah. We had Minka Fitzpatrick back then. Remember that? Remember that guy was Dolphin at one point?
Times. I mean, dude, I love Holland, but
what we've seen from the teams that have beaten, which I'm trying to get out of my mouth for a few minutes now, is the ability to get consistent pressure on Lamar Jackson, consistent pressure up the middle. And something that the 49ers failed to do last week was first of all, they didn't get a lot of pressure on him. But the times they did get pressure, they were not able to keep contained. They both on the outside and on the inside. The Ravens offensive line just dictated where they dragged around Bosa and Chase Young, except for that on that weird safety. They pushed them to kind of where they wanted. So even if they were getting some yards off of the line of scrimmage, they were being pushed out. They were being pushed to the side. Lamar was getting running room up the middle to the outside. He was getting whatever he wanted on the ground. It wasn't an insane statistical game, 252 yards in the air, 45 yards on the ground, but he was very comfortable. I'm not sure how many times he was sacked. Zay Flowers was seemingly opened all game. He's only sacked twice. He was able to just manipulate space, use space to his advantage, and if you can't get a hold on him, there's no chance you're going to beat this Ravens team.
First things first. Just got a notification that the Broncos are expected to cut Russell Wilson.
Wow.
So there's that. Breaking news live on stream. The Broncos are expected to cut Russell Wilson.
Who needs Adam Schefter?
You got your boy Donovan.
Yeah, and courtesy of Diana Rossini. Also courtesy of Alicia Hayes, my girlfriend.
Shout out Liz.
Shout out to Tervalis. She's also Bohemian.
Yeah, that's actually wild.
Expected to be
Anyways,
cut from the Broncos. Hey,
that's crazy,
bro,
bro.
Russell Wilson to the Seahawks. Tell me I'm wrong. It's
You're
weird, but
not
tell me
wrong.
I'm wrong.
We had that conversation earlier. Anyways, back to what works
An actually
against
good quarterback.
uh,
Back to an actually good
an
quarterback.
actual back to an actually good quarterback in Lamar Jackson, MVP candidate.
I'm gonna say he's the best
What,
quarterback in the league.
so
Sue me.
I have
Sue me. He's the best quarterback in
I'm
the league.
not I'm not gonna take anything
He's
away from
better
you
than
there.
Patrick Mahomes.
Um,
Not just this year, and
I'm
I
not-
think in general, he's better than Patrick Mahomes.
I'll give it to you.
We have now seen both quarterbacks with far from perfect situations. We're seeing what Patrick Mahomes is looking like with a less than perfect
I'm
offensive
agreeing
line,
with you.
less than perfect receiving core. We've seen Lamar Jackson with that. And he got the number 1 seed and he got an MVP. Sorry, go on, Donovan.
Yeah. Anyways, so in the game I'm looking at the Steelers game. One thing that stood out to me, I looked at a couple of the play-by-plays. They were able to get pressure but contain. And what that means is that even when your rush goes to the outside, you still have that pressure up the middle. And the Dolphins, that is something that they do very, very well on defense because believe it or not, we have two of the highest sack leaders for defensive tackles with both Zach Sealer and Christian Wilkins. I think they're both approaching 10 sacks on the season. I think the leading sack for a defensive tackle is actually on the Ravens. Um, I believe that's Beaks. But other than that, defensive tackle wise, the Dolphins have some of the best pass rusher and sack getters.
Steelers at 8.5. Wilkins at 8.
Yeah, so both approaching 10 sacks, which for a defensive tackle,
damn good.
By the way, shout out Zach Sealer on the White Squad. If you know, you know.
I don't.
Mendenhall.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Yo, everybody was leaving Zach Sealer off. Everybody was leaving Zach Sealer off, and I'm like, bro, Zach Sealer, Ethan Bonner. They don't know about them white boys.
I mean, we don't know about Ethan Bonner really at all, so.
That's also true. He's just the only white corner ever. But yeah, the Steelers, they were able to get pressure but contain, and that's something that the Dolphins are really able to do. But one thing I would really like to see them do is, so they rush 4 a lot. I would like to see a fifth kind of just sit there in the middle zone as like a spy. I want to see like David Long or Duke Riley sit there as a spy. Even sometimes maybe Javon Holland or another safety, or even get Cater in there if it's a 2 wide receiver set. Get Cater in there as the spy. Someone that's a sure tackler that can chase him down, because he's not only elusive, he's not only big and strong, he's fast as fuck. So yeah, with that kind of speed, you need someone to equate that and be able to run him down if possible. And we need to do a better job of containing him than we did with Dak. Like, Dak was able to scramble. No, we did a very good job for the majority of the game, but he's a lot more elusive than Dak is. So we need to be able to get there quick. That's another thing I noticed about against the Steelers, is that all of these plays, they were within 3 or 4 seconds of each other. So you look at the play-by-play, and it's literally 12:57, 12:50, 12:40, 13:41, 12:58, 12:53. Like, that's 5 seconds in between plays. Clock stops after an incompletion. Like, that's just, you're getting pressure. You make them throw it quick. You make them throw it quickly. Hopefully they're not open in the zone. That's another thing I know you wanted to talk about it a little bit, is we're gonna have to play a lot more zone than we're used to. Now, we have played a lot of zone this year and compared to years past. It's like a 52-48 split, more man than zone. I saw that stat somewhere on Twitter the other day. Hope it's not wrong.
I respect it.
There's a lot of stats that are wrong, also a lot of stats that are right. I just can't find it anymore, so I hope it's right. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I love the honesty on that one. I respect it.
Bro, I gotta be honest. I'm not gonna
Like,
sit here and put out completely
guys,
false information and
I
talk out of my
might be
ass.
entirely making up exactly what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it anyways.
But I do believe that we're gonna have to play a lot more zone coverage against this offense. Mostly because we talked about this a little bit earlier. We need to be able to keep eyes on Lamar Jackson. We need to be able to, like, if his scrambling ability, extending plays in man coverage, it's gonna be really hard to stay on your guy for 5, 6, 7 seconds. Versus, you're in zone, you can pass them off, you can, if there's a ball thrown in your area, it's a lot easier to jump on that pass rather than trying to keep up with a guy for 7 seconds and then you're out of gas and he's gone. So zone coverage is going to be key for this game. And let's be honest, there's not really any stopping Lamar. You're gonna have to slow him down. You're not gonna be able. You're not gonna. You're gonna give him the plays. You're just gonna have to hope that bend don't break is pretty much gonna be the key. And I hate that as much as the next guy, but that's going to be the way that we beat the Ravens. Is bend don't break. Give them the short stuff. Stop them. Sure tackle them, and just don't let the big plays happen.
Which is a lot easier said than done with this Ravens team. They're effective all over the field, and it obviously all starts with Lamar Jackson. Another thing is, I think you got to throw a bunch of different types of looks at him. You can't just play consistently one type of football on defense. And Donovan, you hit on how we do switch things around. It is almost like a 50-50 split, whether we play man, whether we play zone. We don't blitz a lot, but when we do blitz, it has been pretty effective this year, getting pressure to the quarterback. Causing that split second of doubt in a quarterback's mind when you don't know if what you're reading is accurate, whether it's truly a blitz, whether it's man, whether it's zone. That's why pre-snap movement is so important. You get a good read of the defense, but when you disguise coverages and you're not quite sure as a quarterback what's coming at you, that split second matters so much, and it matters less for Lamar as he's so elusive, and I genuinely believe he's the best quarterback in the NFL, especially as we've seen him now develop his ability to throw the ball. Like his stats don't back how good of a quarterback he has really become beyond just running the ball. 3,300 yards, 66% completion percentage, only 19 touchdowns so far this year. But this is a team that wants to run the ball. They want to ground and pound it, including running the ball with Lamar Jackson. He is their leading rusher with 786 yards. 2 games left. He's probably not going to crack 1,000, but that's still an incredible output from a quarterback. On top of, he's probably going to finish around 4,000 yards. Probably going to be less than that unless he just balls out these last 2 games. Disguising coverages, well, unless it's all in that last game of the season. But by all means, go ahead. You cannot, like you said earlier, you cannot stop him. You can just hope that you contain, you minimize those big gains, minimize the big plays, and you just hope that you don't catch the team just kind of in awe of how good this guy is.